I would argue that Third Strike is one of Capcom's all-time greatest pick-up and play fighting games. No matter what title you come from, once you get your hands on 3S, you just kind of get it. The pace is fast but not alien. Your opponent's buttons are typically whiff punishable, making neutral feel great. And sure, things like parry are daunting, but they still make sense. And due to the huge success window on it, it doesn't take too long to incorporate them into a vague game plan. But this doesn't stop the game from being weird. And I mean weird, not imbalanced. We all know what the tier list looks like in this game, and you don't need another video telling you that Chun is good. But what you do need is me banging on for 10 minutes about some peculiar states and interactions unique to Third Strike. Because to me, they show just how strange and exciting the minutiae of this title gets. Disclaimer. If you've never played this game and hearing about these little interactions start to make the idea of picking up the game intimidating, turn off the video and go play it, because 90% of the things I'm talking about today will not impact you until you're hundreds of hours in, I promise you. Let's start simple and talk about dashes. They work the same as any other Street Fighter game. You tap forward twice and then you're locked into an animation of you moving in for a fistful of frames. There's certainly some fun hurtbox interactions with them, but nothing groundbreaking if you've been around the block. What is interesting is how they interact with sweep. Now, typically, if you hit someone with a sweep, they get knocked down backwards. However, if the opponent is dashing at you, there is a window where they will actually fall forwards. Because you're crouching to sweep and they are in the air, if they're close enough to you, they will go over you. The trigger for these trips is not necessarily applied evenly. Some characters have moves which aren't traditional sweeps, but instead normals that give knockdowns, and they have the same effect. Two examples are Q's back roundhouse or Makoto's forward roundhouse. It's commonly understood that this mechanic exists purely for the visuals, and in that regard, it does work. The clashing momentum feels amazing. It does, however, also have some impacts on the meta. Let's say I'm playing Yang and I'm cornered versus an Alex. If he does a string that pushes him pretty far away from me, it's not uncommon for him to make a hard read and dash back into my face to try and set up a grab strike mix-up. If I sweep him, however, he's now cornered, which is obviously an insane reward for me. But with anything in Third Strike, the stronger something is, the more likely your opponent will try and parry it. So there is risk involved for everyone. A less, let's say, niche impact on the meta is Oki. If I'm playing Ken and I sweep you mid-screen at max range, if you tech, I don't get good mix-ups. You're simply too far away and I don't have time to dash twice. But if I trip you, the forward knockdown means you're close enough that I only need to dash once and I can meaty with whatever I want. There's also a glitch associated with dashes, specifically Young's. If you sweep him on a specific frame during the dash's recovery, he'll come out of hit stun and just stand up. It's not something that comes up in game, like ever, but if you were ready for it in the right matchups, you can actually get yourself a nice punish. Speaking of knockdowns, they themselves are pretty weird in this game. Now, you've got the classic things found in older games like variable knockdown timing, where characters take a different amount of frames to stand up, meaning you need to tailor your setups to each matchup, but where it gets strange is with this frame. If you don't know, it's pretty common in traditional 2D fighters to have a frame where you are standing on Wakeup, and this is for the sake of a smoother animation. Now, you can block low, but both your character and hitboxes will be as if they are stood up, even if you're holding down back. This frame actually has a couple of implications on real matches. You can meaty with moves that typically only work on standing characters, say Makoto's standing fierce, and you can even score mix-ups like Ken's instant overhead or Akuma's cross-up grounded Tatsu, which would typically whiff on most crouchers. This, however, is an avoidable state. If instead of just holding down back, you reversal with a crouching normal, you'll skip that standing frame. So here against Ryu, he's doing a meaty Tatsu setup. Tatsu being a move that completely whiffs on crouching. If I just hold down back, he hits me, but if I wake up with a crouching jab, the Tatsu misses and I can punish. The problem being that this is really hard to do. You can't take advantage of any reversal buffer window as you're not using a special, making it basically frame perfect. But in the right situation, it can still be worth going for. Hilariously, Chun can actually wake up crouching without any of this effort. Just hold down back and she avoids the standing frame entirely with no risk. Lucky her. Third Strike also includes a tech roll from soft knockdowns. What the game doesn't have is a push box on a portion of the animation for some of the characters. Here with Ken, after his light DP combo, I hold forward on a Dudley teching, and you can see that I start to walk inside of him. And if I dash, well, I go through him. Even though I'd say this is most likely an oversight as it creates some pretty gross mix-up potential and some characters don't have the disappearing push box, I still think it's sick. You don't want a game where teching is always the correct thing to do. You need a negative to make it an actual decision, not just a reaction check. The recovery on your own moves can get weird too. This is Ken's SA3 and you can see that on the last hit I have 74 frames of advantage. However, if I hold down, it takes 3 frames off my recovery, giving it a total of 77 frames of advantage. It isn't the only move with this feature. Yun's up kicks go from 58 to 60 by just holding down. Some characters have this, but instead of reducing their recovery, it actually adds to it. Ibuki's forward roundhouse is a pretty amazing neutral tool due to its range and the fact it hops loads. It is especially good versus tall characters like Urien who can't duck it. It being 0 means she can abuse her quick buttons and fast movement for basically non-stop pressure even if it doesn't hit. However, if she holds down or down back after the attack startup, it adds an extra frame of recovery, making it -1, meaning if your spacing is off, she'll lose a turn. The oddities found in recovery don't stop there, reversals get strange too. Normally in a fighting game, if I DP, the developer chooses if I recover crouching or standing, but in Third Strike, you can often just pick for yourself. Here I'm doing Ken's Fear Shoryuken and Ryu is punishing me landing. In the first clip I'm holding back and you can see I'm hit standing, but if I hold down back he'll punish me crouching. Now would you ever actually want to recover crouching? Probably not. In this game, when you are hit crouching, the opponent receives a damage bonus of 1.25x, and on top of that, some moves get added frame advantage, making some combos which are typically impossible not only practical, but very damaging. Fortunately for us though, this is Third Strike, a game defined by its matchups, so there are actually some instances where it's useful. Ryu without meter mid-screen typically wants to punish his opponent with a close fierce into roundhouse tatsu. This gives him optimal damage and a ton of corner carry with advantage. He can use his heavy DP instead, which gives him the same damage but you lose the corner carry. If the opponent is crouching, you cannot tatsu, so instead you want to do a close fierce into roundhouse donkey kick for that same carry. This is a combo that doesn't work on standing. So, simply put, if Ryu blocks a DP, he can either guess how the opponent will choose to recover, or he can instead opt for the Fear Shoryuken punish, losing the corner carry for the sake of damage. Or he can go for medium donkey kick, sacrifice the damage for the sake of carry. It basically creates a far more nuanced situation rather than just what's normal, which is you hit your optimal punish every time. Unlike other Street Fighters, Third Strike features a unique back-turn state that you can put your opponent into with certain characters and moves. This comes up a lot if you're playing Alex. His fierce and strong chop put the opponent into back turn, which is amazing for him. It's basically an exaggerated hit stun state, similar to Crush Counter, where the game allows you to command grab the opponent, unlike typical hit stun where it would whiff. Alex also has unique attack animations which only happen versus a back-turned opponent, but we will come back to that. There are a couple of other examples of moves that cause back turn and give specific combos as a result. Akuma's far roundhouse combos into his Raging Demon, Oro can crouch fierce into his Kishin Riki command grab, and Necro can combo his Fierce Tornado Hook into his Slam Dance command grab. What's interesting is moves aren't the only thing that applies this state. You can somewhat intuitively achieve it by positioning. However, it's far less useful for most characters except Alex. He has 3 attacks that have different animations and effects against back-turned opponents. His Power Bomb, his Hyper Bomb Super, and his Back Fierce, all of which are really good for either stun, damage or Oki. The most common way to set them up is with his aforementioned chop, but if you go over an opponent who is doing a laggy move, you can actually land these back turn specific moves while they recover facing the wrong way. You could also do it if they're in a stun state, simply jump over and land those big hits. Now, let's finish strong with air tactic. There are 3 characters in this game that can air throw you: Chun-li, Ibuki, and Oro. This is obviously a pretty powerful tool against those that like to jump and parry. However, any character can air tech. What is meant to happen when you tech is you both land on the floor in a neutral state. But this does not apply to Makoto. She can air tech, then press a button and actually punish you because you are locked out of doing anything. It is guaranteed. Luckily for us, she is considered to be in a back jump state, which means she doesn't have access to her axe kick, which thank God, because if she did, she'd get a whole combo for teching your bro. I'd like to give a huge thanks to Alief, Boa, Raphael and Brendan Abbott. Without them, some of the info surrounding these oddities would have been impossible to find. So go follow them on Twitter if you don't already.